Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Friday night, May 20th edition of studentloanjustice.org. If you're new to the group, welcome. What took you so long? Please tell everybody you know about this group. We are the first, the oldest, the largest, and in many ways, the only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. Lots is going on, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's topic is left versus right. And it's a very interesting topic, particularly on the student loan issue, particularly right now. So first of all, let me say, if you have any questions or comments, and you're watching us on Twitter or Facebook, please throw them out. And if I can see them, I will very happily respond to them. But let me start out by saying, first of all, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian, a communist, an anarchist, a Buddhist, a Zen, you are very welcome in this group. We are a fiercely, and I mean fiercely, nonpartisan group. The history of this problem has taught us that, quite frankly, both parties suck. Now, I have to qualify that a little bit. I have to say that historically, the Republicans have tended to oppose us on not only on bankruptcy, but also here today on student loan cancellation. The Democrats have tended to be on our side. That's true. However, ladies and gentlemen, we pretty much hate both parties at this point. The Democrat, it's kind of like a good cop, bad cop thing. The Democrats say they're on our side, but when push comes to shove, when the important time comes for the Democrats to actually do something, they don't do it. And this has been true since 2007 and before. On the other hand, the Republicans never promised to do anything, and we are never disappointed with them. Donald Trump was a disaster. When we first started this group, George Bush was a disaster. So the only thing that's different in our view, after seeing this thing in action for 17 years, is the rhetoric. You know, student loans remain as unjust, as unfair, as viciously predatory, as hyperinflationary as they ever have been. And this was true going back even before George Bush, George Bush Jr. So that's kind of the background, the history of this. And I could talk a lot more about the history if you want me to. We can say horrible things about both parties, horrible things about candidates and politicians from both sides of the aisle. And I'm happy to do that. So, and I'm looking for your comments right now. So first of all, let me give a couple of brief current things that are important, current happenings. We have a couple of media requests, but generally, if you live in the Washington, D.C. area, and if you've attempted to file for bankruptcy in the past on your student loans, let me know. You can PM me on Twitter or PM me on Facebook. You can send an email to alan@studentloanjustice.org, ALAN@studentloanjustice.org. So that's good. Hopefully you've seen us in the media lately. We've been doing some pretty high profile stuff. We were featured on Fox News a month ago. A feature article where we were the featured interview at something called the Epoch Times, EPOCH Times. We've been quoted in Newsweek recently, a bunch of a lot of stuff, put it that way. We've also got some very big, knock on wood, high profile stories in the hopper. So we're thrilled. So there's that. So we have an interview request. And just in general, the lay of the land right now is student loan cancellation by executive order is at the top of the news, and we're thrilled that it is. You may not know this, and by the way, if you're new to the group, you will not know this. We were the group that started the petition in March 2020, which launched the concept of canceling student loans by executive order into the public conversation. And we're very glad. We're even more glad that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept. And now student loan cancellation by executive order is at the top of the news. That's a really good thing. There's a really bad thing. The student loan cancellation they're talking about is nonsense, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's $10,000 or whether it's up to $50,000, it's all nonsense. There's two things this group is fighting for. For the first 15 years of our existence, we fought very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. This lies at the core of this problem. Whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy is not important. Taking the right of bankruptcy away has weaponized this lending system. It truly lies at the core of everything. We're also now obviously fighting for student loan cancellation, not 10,000, not up to 50,000, which could mean anything. And if Joe Biden and the Department of Education have their way, it will come to mean almost nothing for almost everyone, as long as the right of bankruptcy remains gone from the loans. So we still fight for bankruptcy, and bankruptcy is still the very first most important thing that we need to get returned. Only with the threat of bankruptcy returned to these loans, the leverage that the threat of bankruptcy provides the borrowers, only when we get that back are we going to see any kind of meaningful student loan cancellation from Joe Biden. As long as bankruptcy remains gone, the loan cancellation we're going to get is going to be nonsense. But after the midterms, Biden will say, oh, I know I said up to 50,000 or up to 25,000 or whatever he ends up doing. I know I said that, but you get $3,000. You get nothing because you earn too much. You get nothing because you didn't fill out your form right. Yeah, you get nothing because we couldn't verify your income. You get $4,000. You get $12,000. It'll be like that, guys. We've seen this movie before. It's a very bad movie. We've seen it going back to 2007 and before. So don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen. Up to anything could mean anything, and it will mean almost nothing for almost everyone. If the Biden administration and the bureaucrats, the bad bureaucrats at the Department of Education and their contractors have their way, and they will. So we continue to fight for bankruptcy, and you should be too. If you want your loans canceled, if you want some middling solution like a break on interest, whatever you want for your student loans, you're not going to get any of that until we get the threat of bankruptcy returned to us. There's a bill in the Senate right now. The most important thing I'll say tonight, bill in the Senate right now, S 2598. This bill will return bankruptcy rights to federal student loans. There's a 10-year waiting period. It's not perfect, but it's the best bill we've ever had to fight for. And the bill is bipartisan, and the bill could be passed tomorrow. We are fighting very hard for that bill, and you should be too, no matter what sort of a solution you would like to see for your own student loans. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy, and quite frankly, very few people, maybe nobody, will even have to file when we get the rate returned. But we've got to have it. We've got to have that threat back on our side, ladies and gentlemen. And that is by far and away the most important thing I'm going to tell you tonight. So I'm looking for your comments now. Tonight, I want to talk about what's going on with all the partisanship. So here's the lay of the land, guys. Right now, student loan cancellation by executive order is at the top of the news. The fight now is, will he cancel 10,000? Will he cancel up to 50,000 is the way they've very cleverly put an upper bound on this problem. And the problem has been turned into a partisan one, where the Democrats, almost to a person, say they favor loan cancellation, while the Republicans, almost to a person, say they oppose student loan cancellation. And there's much hay being made around that whole thing. By the way, shame on both parties. You know, I've seen the Democrats be, quite frankly, quiet on the bankruptcy issue. I have not heard many Republicans at all also say much of anything about the bankruptcy issue. They're very happy to toss this political child-proofed football of, oh, should we up to 10,000 or up to 50,000? Or should we meet stuff? Should we not? They're very happy to throw that very safe political football around, because no matter which way that debate turns out, the student loan program will continue on. It will march along. And as long as bankruptcy remains gone, that's what they want. You know, the student loan swamp is strong, guys. It encompasses both political parties. So having said that, as a political football, the Republicans are idiots. The Republicans are absolute idiots. Here's a couple more facts that you need to know. This should not be a partisan issue. Over half of student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. Over half of student loan borrowers are over the age of 35, not under. The worst hurt states are red states. In fact, the 10 worst states in terms of average debt per borrower versus average wages in that state, the worst 10 states is the entire South, from Florida to North Carolina to Missouri to Louisiana, and then throw in Texas and Alabama. And those are the worst 12 states, let's say. So there's absolutely no rational logic, no rational explanation for why the Republicans should be fighting against student loan cancellation. And remember, this is a big government problem. This is a federally owned lending program. And if you look at the numbers, they are absolutely astonishing and cartoonish at this point. State of Texas, for example, $141 billion in student loan debt hanging around the necks of the mostly Republican and or independent people of Texas. $141 billion. What would happen if we somehow ripped $141 billion out of the wallets and the purses of the good people of Texas and sent all that money to Washington, D.C.? It would ruin the state of Texas. So it makes no sense at all for the Republicans not only to be opposing student loan cancellation, but offering up no solutions of their own. Now, there's one exception to that, and that is bankruptcy. The best news I have for all of you tonight is that while we fought for bankruptcy very moderately for 15 years, and it was a very tough slog, and we met fierce opposition, all of that opposition that we were dealing with on bankruptcy for all those years, that has now shifted to the loan cancellation debate. Now, today, here, while I'm talking to you, almost nobody will oppose the concept of returning bankruptcy rights to student loans. And that is the best, absolute best news that I have for any of you tonight. So while the current struggle and the current food fight, the current partisan political bickering over student loan cancellation is taking up, it's sucking all the air out of the room, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But despite all that, we have come a long ways, guys. We have come a long ways. Almost nobody will oppose us on bankruptcy now. So this bodes just extremely well for our bill, S2598. And if you forget everything that I said tonight, remember this. Go to our website. And do at least a week worth of our daily actions. Also, follow us on Twitter. If you want to help in this battle, and we really need you to, then that's the first thing that you will do to help. One of the other things that we've learned over the years is that when you sitting there do nothing happens, guys. We cannot count on the talking heads in Washington, D.C. We can't count on anyone, the media, anyone. We can't count on anyone to solve this problem for us. It is this group is the reason that we have a bankruptcy bill in the Senate right now with bipartisan support. That started with us. We would not have a bill to fight for, but for the people on this group. We also probably wouldn't be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for the people on this group. We were the guys that convinced Elizabeth Warren to bring bankruptcy into her agenda. We were the guys that convinced Joe Biden to adopt Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan. And as I said earlier, we were the guys that started the petition that only 6 months after it went viral, or went right around the time we had I think 700,000 or 800,000 signatures, and we were blowing up in the media, Newsweek, Fox News, and Yahoo, and everything. Only then did Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embrace the concept. And as I said, we're thrilled that they did, but we're not pleased at all with how they dumbed it down and child-proofed it. They swamp-proofed it, essentially. But yeah, that all started with us, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to help, and we are the pioneers, guys, we need your help. Go to studentloanjustice.org and do at least, I'd say, a week, but really you should probably do like a month worth of our daily actions. You need Twitter, by the way. Get a Twitter account if you don't have one. You may hate Twitter. I don't particularly like Twitter, but Twitter's pretty useful. Pretty useful. So I'm seeing a ton of comments here. I see Gordon is with us tonight. I see Kyle's with us tonight. Terry's with us tonight. I don't think you missed much, Gordon. If you've seen any of our live streams before, the first 44 seconds are usually stuff I've already said. Hey, Kyle Smith says, donate to Alan in the group if you have not done yet. $5 a month is nothing. Well, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. We don't need a whole lot of money on this group. We don't. Our operating expenses usually run, well, in more recent months, it's closer to $3,000 a month because our email expenses got really high, but our expenses are low. We don't need money to do what we do. And so, having said that, we can't do it on nothing. So thank you, Kyle. If you want to donate to us, you can do that. $5 a month would be spectacular. Even if like 150 people donated $5 a month, that would be pretty much all that we ever need. So, studentloanjustice.org/donate. Thanks, Kyle. Hey, Terry Dodd says, good evening, Alan and fellow student loan justice warriors. Surprisingly, I had my first interview with the New York Times yesterday, and she got a mouthful from me. I was on the phone with her for at least an hour. Well, good, Terry. I'm glad to hear that. In fact, I probably shouldn't have even said, we don't like to mention the names of the newspapers that are doing ongoing stories, but I know the Times is always working on a student loan story. So let's just leave it at that, shall we? Don't mention any reporters' names or anything. But yeah, no, we're thrilled. We have a lot of stuff in the media is on the hopper right now. And that's just about all I can say. Beyond what I said earlier about if you live in Washington, D.C. area, and if you've attempted to file for bankruptcy in the past, let us know. There's not the New York Times, different news organization is looking for somebody who fits that. Gordon Wayne Watts mentions Virginia Fox, who is the worst of all the Republicans in this country on the student loan issue. She is a nasty, nasty woman. And again, it makes no sense that Republican members of Congress from the South oppose us so vehemently. North Carolina is wrecked by student loan debt. Quick little stat from North Carolina. Student loan debt in North Carolina exceeds the entire state budget of North Carolina. I believe the state budget of North Carolina is somewhere around $46 billion. Student loan debt in North Carolina is $58 billion. You could buy every farm in North Carolina and still have $20 billion left over with all the student loan debt, mostly federal, that is hanging around the neck of the good people of North Carolina. So back more to the partisan stuff, guys. This is important because Republicans should be on our side. You know, the worst state in the country by many measures is the state of Georgia, which is just south of South Carolina, I guess. Is that right? Yeah. Worst state in the country, Georgia. State budget of Georgia is $48 billion. The people of Georgia owe $82 billion in mostly federal student loan debt. That's not good for the state of Georgia. You could buy every farm in the state of Georgia, I believe, twice and still have quite a few billion left over with the student loan debt that exists in that state. It is jaw-dropping, absolutely jaw-dropping. Yet at the same time, some of the worst people in the world are from Georgia. Like some of the fiercest Republicans on this thing are from Georgia. It makes no sense. And by the way, how did that last Georgia election go for the Republicans? That's probably the most important point I have to make here tonight on the issue of partisanship. Like, why was that Georgia, which is a pretty deeply, deeply Republican state, why was that election even close? Much less, why did the Democrats win in Georgia on November 3rd, 2020? I'll tell you why. It's because of the student loan issue. This is not a partisan issue, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. And if you know any conservatives, I wish you would tell them that, because they need to know. You know, I don't know what the psychology behind it is, but for whatever reason, it would appear that conservatives, and probably 40-something% of the people in our group consider themselves to be conservative, for whatever reason, conservatives are way more quiet about the student loan issue than liberals are. Maybe liberals are just louder in general. I don't know. But conservatives tend to suffer in silence, and they don't speak out. And that I really wish that would change. It is probably the number one thing that's holding us back. You know, a lot of people, particularly conservatives, they don't mention their student loan problems to their wives and husbands and kids and friends and colleagues and significant others, let alone join a group like ours. So if you happen to be a conservative, I would hope that you would be encouraged by everything that I said tonight. Most student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. I kid you not. It's true. The worst hurt states are Southern Republican states. I kid you not. It's true. And if you doubt that, go to our website, as I said, studentloanjustice.org, and scan down the headlines on the front page, and you will see an article that we've written to both of those points. Also, the fact that most student loan borrowers are older rather than younger. You can see that, and you can look at the data for yourself. Most of the research we do is based completely on Department of Education data, with a few exceptions. So Virginia Fox sucks. Madison Cawthorn from North Carolina also sucks. Madison Cawthorn got beat last night, and I could not be happier. It wasn't quite the guy that we wanted to beat him. There was another guy that was a little better on the student loan issue. But nonetheless, Madison Cawthorn's out. He was a terrible person. Terrible people members of Congress also come from the states of Indiana. Ted Cruz in Texas is terrible. Speaking of terrible. Also, South Dakota. Another state where student loan debt exceeds the state budget. Terrible. There's a terrible senator there whose name escapes me at the moment. I'll remember it like as soon as I get off the live stream, I'm sure, but whatever. Is it John Thune? It might be John Thune. Mitt Romney is terrible, by the way. And if you've seen his name in the headlines recently, he and the guy from South Dakota, was that John Thune? I think it was John Thune. Mitt Romney, John Thune, some other senators, Richard Burr of North Carolina, all brought up introduced a bill a couple of weeks ago, trying to stop the president from canceling student loans by executive order. That is the stupidest thing in the world. As I said, and by the way, Utah is not great either. The people of Utah owe like 86 or something % of their state budget in student loan debt. So I guess if I had to be happier, it wasn't quite the guy that we wanted to be. If I had to maybe summarize the whole left versus right thing on this issue, I think it would be one where it's a good cop, bad cop thing. The Republicans wag their finger at us, but on the left, the Democrats are stringing us along. It's almost like it's like the Democrats are purposely trying to infuriate us. You know, before the election, Joe Biden said, "Hey, I will eliminate your student loan debt if you went to a public college or if you earn less than $125,000 a year." A lot of people voted for Joe Biden, expecting that he would do something like that. They said, "Oh, you'll eliminate my student loan debt if I earn less than 125 grand? I'm in." And then Biden blatantly betrayed us. So it's almost like neither party really wants our vote. And maybe this is the most important political thing I'm going to tell you tonight. And this is a jaw-dropping number. If you look at both private and federal student loans, there are approximately 57 million people in the country who either have student loans or are co-signed on them. This is both federal and private. 80% of those 57 million people were underwater on their federal or private student loans before the pandemic. So 80% of those 57 million people were losing sleep about their student loans. And that was before the pandemic. It's probably gone up since then. So we're talking about something like 42 million people, 42 million voters for whom student loans was at the top of their minds. And we vote. 42 million people is nearly enough to elect a president outright. So it is not even close to an exaggeration to say that we, student loan voters, are the largest, I say untethered, so we are not beholden to either political party. We are the largest untethered political voting bloc in U.S. history. And that's true. You know, you show me any other issue, abortion, gun control, flag burning, Supreme Court, you name the issue, and I will show you an issue around which the battle lines have been very clearly drawn. Not so on the student loan issue. It's the Wild West, guys, and the parties are trying to get their arms around it, but they're not impressing us. They certainly are not. You know, Democrats out there are livid at President Biden and the Democrats right now. The Democrats have control of Congress. And in the past year and a half, since Biden and the Democrats have had control, they've done nothing. They've done a couple of little window dressing things, a couple things on public service, but that doesn't affect 98 or 9% of us. So the Democrats have screwed us, have screwed themselves, I should say, on this issue. Now, the Republicans are just wagging their fingers in the first place, so they're pushing us away. So where do we have to go, guys? Where do we have to go? I don't know. But I can tell you this, that if the Democrats don't do something, and something very big, and I'm talking very big, I'm not talking a $10,000 loan cancellation. I'm not talking up to $50,000 loan cancellation. And quite frankly, I'm not even talking bankruptcy, which is way more important than either of those two things. Even if the Democrats were to return bankruptcy tomorrow to student loans, I don't know. I think the political dynamics being what they are in this country right now, I don't think that would be enough for the Democrats to pull through and retain power through the primaries. I think the only thing the Democrats can do to retain their lead in the House and the Senate come November 8th is going to be to cancel not up to 50, not 10, not 25, not some stupid middle ground, but to return bankruptcy protections to the loans and to cancel all federally owned student loans. I think that's going to be kind of what it takes for the Democrats to have a chance at retaining their control of the House and the Senate. On the other hand, on the Republican side, the Republicans are looking very good to retake either the House or the Senate or both. Obviously, they're not going to retake the presidency. That's a 4-year thing. But this 2-year midterm thing, the Republicans are looking right now to be in a very strong position to take back both the House and the Senate. However, the Republicans appear to be trying very, very hard to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by wagging their finger at us, the 57 million student loan borrowers in the country. 57 is probably high because, as I said, 20% of those people were able to make payments on their loans before the pandemic, so maybe this isn't quite as big of an issue for them. But the Republicans are poking their finger in the eye of 42 million bipartisan, both Republican, Democrat, roughly in equal measure, distressed student loan voters. Like if there was any way I could see the Republicans losing in November, it would be by continuing to do what they are doing, which is to poke us like with an ice pick in our eyeballs on the student loan issue. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news, guys. I don't know what to tell you. As I said, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. We're good whichever way the political winds blow, because our argument cuts both ways. We have a very conservative argument to make. We have a very liberal argument to make. Our argument is it's transcendental. We cover all the ethnic and political and geographic and cultural and gender. We cross all of those lines. Like, whatever your thing is, you're very welcome in this group. And so for the Republicans to push us away is idiotic. For the Democrats not to do what they said they were going to do while they have the ability to do it. They could pass S2598 tomorrow. Joe Biden could cancel these loans tomorrow. So it makes absolutely no sense at all for the Democrats to be screwing us around. So it's pretty interesting times we live in here, folks. But what I can tell you is this. No matter what happens, the two things. Number one, this stuff does not happen in a vacuum. What you do matters. You sitting there. And for Gordon and Terry and everybody else I see on the live stream here tonight, Kyle, you guys know that's true. That for sure is true. To everybody else out there who maybe hasn't been helping us, you need to help us. You can't sit there and wait and watch and worry and expect that the solution to this problem is going to fall in your lap. Because if we leave it up to the clowns, both Democratic and Republican clowns in Washington, D.C., and the media that hovers on their every word, if you count on them to solve this problem for us, we're going to be screwed. We are going to be effed. Like they effed us in 2011, like they effed us in 2007. What we'll see, if we don't get our backs into this fight, we're going to see right before the election a fake loan cancellation from Joe Biden. Up to $10,000, up to $20,000, up to $50,000. Hell, he might even do up to $100,000, and it would still be fake, guys. Up to are the operative words there. And as long as the threat of bankruptcy remains gone, we will remain screwed as ever. So we fight for student loan cancellation. Don't get me wrong, and I will defend that to the very last breath. But the thing that is going to make that happen is getting S2598 passed as it's written now, guys. Truly, it's the most important thing. Hey, Vanjie Unruh is with us tonight. Fake cancel equals fake pay, Vanjie says. That's right. If Biden wants to pretend to cancel student loans, that's fine. Democrats and all of the independents out there who swing elections, us 42 million distressed student loan borrowers, will just pretend to vote for him. And how do you think that's going to work out in the midterms? I don't think it's going to work out too well. So that is the political lay of the land. I hope I was clear, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just scan our Twitter feed here and see if there's any comments there. But much depends on what you do, what you don't do. We need you here. Go to our website, do our daily actions. Sure, that's great. Do more than that. Go to our website. Join us on Facebook if you're not. Follow us on Twitter if you're not. Join your state chapter if you're not in your state chapter. We are hitting Republican senators very hard. Not hardly, very hard, very strongly right now. We are pushing Republican senators. Our bill, S2598, is in I don't stutter except when I'm really serious about something. So let me tell you, our bill is in a very precarious position right now. What we do, what you do right now could very well tell the tale on S2598. What you do, you could be the one person that gets that one Republican senator to fight for us. You could be the guy that makes that happen. You could be the guy that gets the first Republican governor to stand up and say, President Biden, that's enough. I will not let the great state of Texas, or I will not let the great state of Florida, I will not let the great state of Georgia, any of those southern states I mentioned, or many others, I will not let my state be conquered and enslaved by this ridiculous debt. Mr. President, cancel the loans. You could be the person that gets Ron DeSantis to open his freaking eyes and say, wow, I didn't realize that there's $120 billion in mostly federal student loan debt hanging over the state of Florida. Wow, I didn't realize that with all the student loan debt in Florida, you could buy Disney World like 50 times. I didn't realize that. You could be the person that opens the governor's eyes. And if you were to do that, then you single-handedly would have pretty much solved this whole problem. I'm not kidding you guys. The stakes are that high right now where one person can cause, he can push that first domino down. One person can pull that little thing out that causes the whole thing to, like, those are the times that we are living in right now. So you have no idea how important you are. And I kid you not, if ever you were going to fight with us to get these loans gone, the next, between now and November, let's say, would be it. And I know I've said that before, and it's always been true, and it is still true today. The stakes are higher today than they were a week ago. We are closer. Things are more critical today than they were a month ago. So interesting times we live in, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say that. So I hope I was clear. I'm going to leave it here short here tonight. Oh, I see we've got a couple comments on Twitter. Let me just quickly get to them. And by the way, if I don't get to your comments tonight, let me apologize in advance. Hey, Joanna's here with us. Good evening, Joanna, watching us now. Okay, good. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave it there at that. Don't take the weekend off, guys. I don't. Many people on this group don't. Get into this game. We're winning, but we need you. All the signs are looking very good right now, despite what you may see in the media. None of that nonsense matters. What matters is us. What matters is us, this group. And remember, student loan borrowers control the lending system. We've got over 1 million people in our group now. We should have 10 or 20 million, quite frankly. Frankly, we should have about 42 million people. So tell a friend. People are starting to wake up. People are finally starting to speak out. We need them here helping with us. We need them fighting the smart fight. And the smart fight, let me just say for the last time, starts with getting the leverage of bankruptcy returned to these loans. We don't want to be fooled again, guys. We don't want a fake loan cancellation and bankruptcy remains gone. That is precisely what our opposition wants. It's a huge danger for us. We need you and everybody you know with student loans fighting with us, fighting for the smart solution. When we get bankruptcy rights returned, guys, it's frankly only a matter of time that the president is going to have to actually, not fake, actually, not pretend, actually cancel student loans broadly, widely, meaningfully, deeply, maybe even totally. I don't know. But I do know that nothing good is going to happen until we get S2598 passed. So take heart, guys. We've never been in a better position in the 17-year history of this group. We've never been closer, and now is the time for you to help. We are the tip of the spear. We are the spear. We are the eye of the storm. In many ways, we are the storm. What you do matters. You have no idea how important you are. So, okay, folks, have a great weekend. I'll be back on Sunday. Fight, as they say. Hang in there. Keep us posted as to your accomplishments and achievements. Good luck. Godspeed. God bless everyone.